You know that sinking feeling when the free ride's over? Like, your government-assisted housing voucher just expired. The property's been reclaimed for decent, tax-paying citizens, and some woman is standing on your porch telling you to pack your bags and get off her lawn. Except it's your own damn house? Yeah, that happened. I'll never forget the moment. Let me back up a sec. We'd just come back from the most perfect family vacation up at the lake. Me, my wife Nia, and our son Leo, who was 12 and in that sweet spot between childhood and teenager. Fishing at sunrise, hammocks in the afternoon, Leo telling those awful ghost stories that somehow always ended with a squirrel. That drive home, the car reeking of pine and trail mix. We were sun-kissed and happy, already picturing our beds. Our little street, with its big oaks and old stone sidewalks, had always felt like a reward for years of doing things the right way. That all changed the second we pulled into the driveway. Nia was halfway up the front walk, Leo at her side, when she stopped dead. I glanced up from the trunk, and there she was, a woman, late 60s maybe, planted right in the doorway. Not the porch, not the steps, but inside the actual house. Platinum helmet hair, white pantsuit crisp as a starched napkin, arms crossed with the confidence of someone who's never had to second-guess herself a day in her life. She glared at Nia and Leo like they were squatters in her kitchen. Nia, bless her, was more confused than anything. "I'm sorry, can I help you?" she asked, trying for polite but coming out wary. That's when the woman unleashed the line that would kick off the worst month of our lives. "The free ride is over. Your government-assist housing voucher has expired. This property's been reclaimed for decent, tax-paying citizens." For a second, my brain short-circuited. Voucher? Lady, I'd been paying a mortgage with an interest rate tattooed on my soul since we bought the place. There hadn't been a voucher in sight since I was 23. But the confidence in her voice, the venomous certainty, it was chilling. I hauled a couple bags up the driveway and joined my family. "Ma'am, you have the wrong house. We live here," I said, trying to keep my voice even. She looked me up and down, from my fishing vest to my boots, and sneered. "Not anymore. This property was declared abandoned as of 9 a.m. Monday. I filed the paperwork for adverse possession. This is my house now. You're trespassing." She actually waved a stack of papers at us. "And I've changed the locks." There was this weird, echoing silence, a blue jay chirping in the old oak, our suitcases on the driveway. Abandoned? Adverse possession? It sounded like something out of a bad TV legal drama. For a moment, I half expected one of my friends to jump out from behind a bush with a hidden camera. But no, the way she held herself, the way she owned that delusion, this was real, and it was about to get a whole lot worse. Nia's patience snapped into what I called her contractor voice, calm, but with a warning buried deep. "You haven't reclaimed anything. This is our home. We have the deed, the mortgage, 10 years of family photos on the walls. We went on vacation. That's not abandonment." The woman, Karen, as we'd later learn, laughed. Not a real laugh, but that dry rattle in the back of her throat that meant she was dead serious. According to maritime law and the statutes of the Free Republic, leaving a dwelling unoccupied for 72 hours constitutes forfeiture. She said she'd filed a claim, secured the property, signed a legally binding lease agreement with herself. Now, I'd heard of sovereign citizens before, folks who thought a driver's license was tyranny and punctuation in your name meant you were government property. But seeing it up close, invading your actual living room? That's next level. "Ma'am, you're in our house illegally. I'm asking you one more time. Get out before I call the police," I told her. She gave me this cold, wild-eyed smile. "Call who you want. They have no jurisdiction over a free woman on the land. And they'll see your names in all caps on your deed. That means you're a corporation, not a real person." And here's the thing. As much as I wanted to believe the cops would take one look at this woman and cart her off, I had that gnawing, ugly feeling in my gut. You know what I mean? History says, when there's a hysterical white lady with a stack of fake documents and a black family locked out of their house, things can get sideways, fast. Nia already had 911 on the line. Waiting for the police, we stood on our own lawn, feeling like strangers in front of our own house, while Karen held court in the doorway, spouting nonsense about private conveyances and sovereign territories. 2 officers showed up, a baby-faced kid and his older Latino partner. "What's the problem here?" the younger one asked. I explained, as calmly as I could. that we'd come home to find this woman had broken in, changed the locks, and now refused to leave. Before I could finish, Karen went full performance. Victim quaver in her voice, clutching a bright red folder. These people, they tried to force their way in. I'm a widow, alone, and so frightened. She shoved her stack of pseudo-legal paperwork at the cops. Nia jumped in, showing the officer the county website with our names and the property record. The kid squinted at the screen. Karen pounced. See? All caps. That's a corporation. My documents supersede theirs. The cops just stared at each other, clearly in over their heads. This seems to be a civil matter, the older cop finally said, which, if you've ever been the victim of anything, is the phrase that signals you're about to get royally screwed. She says she has a right to be here. You say you do. We can't just kick her out. We need to go to court, get an eviction order. Meanwhile, if we tried to enter, we could be arrested for trespassing. That's when the world tipped sideways. Karen was standing there, gloating like a chess grandmaster, while the law was telling us to pack up and go. Leo, who'd been silent, suddenly spoke up, voice trembling. My hamster's in there. My books. His pet, Hamlet, was upstairs, and our meds were in the bathroom. After some back and forth, Karen, never missing a chance to assert power, allowed one of us 5 minutes inside under police escort. The humiliation was off the charts. I went in, grabbed the essentials, trying not to notice how the house already felt different. Karen's perfume in the air, our photos missing from the entryway, replaced by her folders. Walking out with Leo's hamster, I felt like I was in a nightmare. The officers gave us a card with a case number, and that was it. They drove away, leaving us on the curb with our suitcases and a hamster in a plastic cage. We spent that first night in a cheap airport hotel, hollowed out and stunned, eating takeout off the dresser, pretending it was an adventure for Leo's sake. But the questions kept coming. When can we go home? Why did that lady steal our house? Did we do something wrong? By morning, we were on the phone with every property lawyer in the tri-state area, desperate for someone who understood this sovereign citizen garbage. We found Ben, a hungry young attorney who'd seen a version of this scam before. But even he warned us. The courts move slow. She's exploiting every loophole. It could be months. And then things escalated. Our neighbor, Mrs. Gable, called in a whisper. She'd seen a moving truck at our house. Karen was selling our stuff. She wasn't just squatting. She was liquidating our lives, piece by piece. Ben said that tipped it into felony territory. We needed detectives now, not patrol. So there we were, giving statements in a windowless room to a detective named Henderson, laying out every surreal detail. The man shook his head, saying, "Classic. Patrol sees weird paperwork and punts it to the courts. But this is organized theft now." The bureaucracy was thick, but at least now, someone was actually listening. While the wheels turned, I did my own digging. Turns out, Karen had done this before, scammed elderly folks, tried the same play in another town. But this time, we fought back with evidence. Her pattern, her network of co-conspirators, and a crooked notary, Gerald, who spilled the beans about the larger ring of sovereign freedom fighters. The feds got involved. This wasn't about one house anymore. It was organized racketeering, wire fraud, laundering. Meanwhile, we were still refugees, bleeding cash at the hotel, Leo growing quieter by the day. That's when Nia snapped. "If we can't get her out with the law," she said, "we'll make her life in that house hell." We cut the utilities, shut off the water, signed up for every junk mail list under the sun, and even paid landscapers to dig up our lawn and dump the most noxious fish emulsion fertilizer on the front yard at 7 a.m. sharp. Neighbors started laughing, rallying around us, bringing groceries and pizzas. For the first time, it felt like maybe, just maybe, the tide was turning. The siege worked. Karen dug in, but the network panicked. One night, her leader, a disbarred lawyer named Silas, showed up in a black van, removing boxes of records, caught on camera by our PI. That was the opening the FBI needed. The raid went down just after midnight, a scene straight out of a heist movie. Floodlights, SWAT, bullhorns, Karen trying to run with suitcases full of cash and our stolen jewelry, only to end up face down on the same porch she'd locked us out of. Silas and Gerald were arrested in other states. The entire network brought down in one sweeping operation. But coming home, that was harder than I imagined. The house was trashed, walls scrawled with lunatic slogans, our photos defaced. For a moment, we just stood there, ready to give up. But then the neighbors arrived, toolboxes, cleaning supplies, paint rollers in hand. We saw the tape come down, Al said. We figured you could use a hand. And an apology for letting you fight this alone. The whole neighborhood pitched in, scrubbing and painting until the house felt like ours again. That night, Leo slept in his own bed for the first time in weeks, safe beneath the roof we'd nearly lost. The healing took time. Therapy for Leo, patience for us. But we weren't done. The trial became national news. Silas trying his sovereign citizen routine in court, Karen pretending to be a frail victim. The jury didn't buy it. Guilty on every count. The sentences were stiff. Decades for Silas, 15 years for Karen. When the civil case settled, we used the damages to launch the Homestead Project, legal aid for families like us, fighting property scams and illegal evictions. Leo, who'd been so quiet, was the one who came up with the idea. Years later, our house is home again. The lawn is green. Leo's taller, bolder, a little more serious, but still him. Every anniversary, we gather with neighbors and friends, not to mourn, but to celebrate how we turned a nightmare into a new kind of family. I still think about Karen, sometimes. She wrote me once from prison, a rambling letter, not an apology but a confession of loneliness. Her bitterness curdled into ideology. I don't forgive her, but I understand, a little. She tried to steal our life, and in the end, made us stronger than we'd ever been. So here's the thing. You never know what your community is made of until the walls come down. Sometimes justice takes longer than it should, but when it finally comes, it's worth every ounce of the fight. Would you have done the same in my shoes? I hope you'd fight. I hope you'd find your people, like we did. Let me know, what would you have done? Is there ever a time you just walk away? Or do you dig in and reclaim what's yours? Drop your thoughts below. Tell us where you're watching from. And hey, don't forget to look out for your neighbors. Sometimes they're the only line between you and chaos.